Hello and welcome to Make the Logo Bigger. My name is Brenton. This podcast is your gateway into the world of advertising production, crafted especially for those who are stepping in new, aiming to become producers, or simply eager to understand the inner workings of advertising and marketing. We're here to share insights and knowledge you've been looking for, with stories, tips, and real conversations from the pros. We're simplifying the process for everyone with a production curiosity. Whether you're just starting out or keen to explore the production side of ads, you've found the right place. Let's jump in. Today's guest is someone who's truly sat both sides of the creative fence, Pat Langton. He's been a creative director, an ECD, run his own agency, sold it, started a new creative studio, and somewhere along the way picked up producing too. It's rare to find someone who's navigated the agency world, client expectations, the creative process, and production with such hands-on experience. Pat's story is one of evolution, from his early days at RMIT to working at the big shops like Ogilvy and McCann, and then taking the leap into business ownership twice. He's gathered a ton of lessons along the way. We get into all of it, what it's like selling your baby, how he's challenging the traditional agency model, and why he thinks it's time for a serious shake-up in the way that we work. We also talk about wearing multiple hats, the importance of finding the right people, not just the most experienced, and how producing has changed the way he writes creatively. Pat Langton. Pat, welcome. It's great to have you on. A fascinating story. We'll get into this a little later on as we move through. But creative director, ECD, had your own agency, sold it, started a creative studio, became a producer. Haven't had anybody with who's experienced both sides of the fence. But before we get into that, do you just want to give us a bit of a brief background about your journey through the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out at RMIT. I'll start from the very beginning. At RMIT, it was a creative advertising course. It's changed now. It's a very different course now. It's called Bachelor of Communications, I think. And in my third year, I kind of landed a job at Ogilvy as like a full-time freelance, basically, and did that with Tommy McCubbin. And we kind of didn't have to finish our course. It was kind of nice. They kind of said, look, you've got a job, just present what you do at the agency, which was pretty amazing. I don't think they'll do that these days. But yeah, and then was there for about 6 to 8 months. And then that finished up, and then, tried to get a job, and that was quite difficult. Did a bit of freelance. Well, actually, I worked for free at, I knew the creative director there. He was a family friend, and just asked, could I sit in the office? I don't want to get paid. I just want to do something because I was bored at home. And that just happened. The dude I was sitting next to knew someone at McCann that was looking for an art director, and that's how it worked. So I don't advocate for working for free, but sometimes just a foot in the door can help. And I guess it's like about meeting people. So I kind of landed the job at McCann. Quite a few years ago now, but that was great. I was there for about 3 to 4 years. I was partnered with James Cowie, who's now at DDB, I think. And worked there for a bit, a big agency, worked on Holden, and then unfortunately got made redundant, which is a common theme in the industry, I think. And we lost basically a lot of Holden work, and I worked a lot on that. And then ended up at a small agency called Magnum Opus, and was there for quite a few years until I moved off to London, took my family there, and that was great. Went back to McCann, weirdly. I guess it was kind of inevitable. I thought I'd end up at some Shoreditch cool indie agency. It didn't kind of work out that way, but had a great time. Met some amazingly creative people. Was partnered with Guy Schweimer, who's now ECD of McCann Health. We did some great work together, won a bunch of awards. And then we decided to go back home. And when I was come back home, and Magnum Opus said, look, if you come back, we'll give you some partnership, some equity. And wasn't sure if I should do that or not. But having a bit of say, I thought I could kind of maybe turn that agency around a bit. And kind of worked there, got in there for about, I think it was 6 or 7 years until we eventually sold to Hero, which was very unexpected. It happened really, really quickly. We weren't really looking to sell, but it just happened that way. we were actually looking to expand. We were thinking of calling around, seeing if there was a small agency we could buy. But as fate has it, we end up selling to Ben. And that was a wild ride as well. That was an interesting time in my life, something to experience for sure. Selling a business is a very odd thing. Losing complete control of your baby is another interesting experience to go through, but definitely a rewarding one, just because you learn so much, and I've taken away a lot from that. Probably that I'd never sell again. But again, working there was great. We had Toyota working on massive clients, doing extremely good work. They're doing some great stuff there. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. Yeah, like I said, I probably wouldn't sell again. Well, hey, there's always a number, right?
There's always a figure.
There's always a figure.
Enough zeros on there, you may just sell.
So I won't say never. My brother would probably kill me if I said that. But yeah, it was just, I think I kind of wanted to just grow something and make it as best as it can be. So yeah, now left Hero and now started Hook Creative Studio, and I really wanted to do something different here. I think I saw where the industry was going and wasn't really liking it. It hasn't really changed. The industry itself for like 30, 40, 50 years. And we need to shake it up a bit. I think the whole...
And Pat, give us a bit of an idea and a bit more of an understanding about how it stayed the same. Is it stayed the same because of the revenue model that it's built on, or the way the head hours are costed up? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the head hour thing, or, timesheets is definitely one reason. It's a broken model. Creativity isn't linear like that. You don't sit down for 8 hours and come up with ideas. It's just not how ideas come to people. You might be in the shower or at a cafe or watching a movie or whatever it is. Those ideas come at random times. So to think that you can put an hour on that is a bit odd. So that is one thing. I guess the model that I'm kind of taking on is we're doing a lot of the production in-house now, which is not something that agencies do. They go to a production company and hire a production company to bring that idea to life. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and I've done some great work doing that. I just don't think the money is there that it used to be. I think agencies, especially networks, are acting like it's still the 80s, 90s, and those budgets are still there, and they're simply not. So there's too many people involved, so there's too many heads, and therefore you've got to cover those costs, right? So those budgets blow out for clients. So I guess it's the model that I'm trying to do is get those people and the best people to work on the idea. So I source those people just like a production company would. So I'll probably ruffle some feathers, and some people might not like me very much, but I'm okay with that. I think it's time that we need to change.
And when you say you get the people, I would assume that you'd be getting more senior people than junior people, correct?
Yeah, look, it's yes, I do. That's correct. But I just source the best freelancers for the job, and whether that's senior or junior, I don't really mind, as long as they can do the job well. So if I get a recommendation for someone that's just new, but he or she is doing a great job, I am 100% willing to give them a go, for sure.
And what's it been like? Again, we'll get back into a bit more of the story, but just following on for this little section, with Hook that you have right now, what's it been like? It's been running for now, what, a year?
Yeah, it's about almost exactly a year, really. It's been a ride. It's been amazing and a learning curve. I've been wearing a lot of hats, as you do when you're a startup. You tend to just do everything. I guess producing is one of them. I do delegate a lot of stuff to freelancers where I can, but it just depends on budgets, and if I can, I will.
Okay, so best people for the job. So Pat, like you said, you've been a creative director, and we've talked about this offline before when we were discussing coming on the podcast. You said that you produce somewhat now as well. So you've gone and had a creative life, and you run a business, and now you've got another new business, and then you're producing as well. What's that been like?
It's interesting, and like I said, I guess when you are small, you do tend to wear many hats, and it is difficult because sometimes I'm coming up with the idea, I'm doing the producing, I'm sourcing the people, and sometimes directing, depending on what it is, copywriting. I'm doing it all, but where I can, I try and bring people in to help out, because it's just not feasible for someone to do all those things, you know. But yeah, I guess doing producing, it's all about being organized. And I don't know if you've met many creatives, but they're pretty bad at that stuff. But I've tried to, you know, pull my socks up and kind of do the best I can. And I think I'm doing an okay job. I wouldn't ever call myself a producer as such, but I can pull together the right people for the gig.
And what about the best people that you have worked with? Because I know that you've obviously creatively, you've probably worked with some absolute jets in your time. Have you noticed anything that's consistent or a theme that they have
I think
or that they do?
I think it's a lot same as creatives really. It's problem solving. So it's working out how to do something and who to pull in to make that possible. Because, you know, as creatives, we come up with sometimes pretty zany ideas. And, you know, then we go to a producer and go, we've got this idea, can you do it? And sometimes they're like, nah, it's not possible, you know. But the good ones will say, yeah, we'll work it out, you know, and they'll put in the work to try and find out the best way to execute that, or find the best person to execute it for you. So yeah, I've worked with some great producers and great creatives. You know, it just, being a producer is about problem solving to me. I think it's just similar with creatives. It's about trying to find out the best way to do this in an interesting way.
And with producing that you've dabbled in or that you are doing, does it give you more an appreciation for the actual writing of an idea? Do you already have cost at the back end already in mind when you're coming up with it?
Yeah, totally. It's just, it's pretty hard to kind of jump from job to job, if you know what I mean. So, you know, you come up with the idea, you present it to the client loves it, and they're like, yep, let's shoot this, right? Or let's make this. And I'm like, okay. You know, and then you're kind of like, okay, how am I going to do this? And so it is about trying to kind of work out who's the best person to kind of either, you know, dress that prop that stuff, get the wardrobe going, and who would be the best DOP for that, you know. So it's just about kind of sourcing those people to make the ad the best it can possibly be. So like I said, I don't think I'm a producer, but I've had to do the job, and it is a difficult job, especially depending on what the idea is.
So, well, let's talk about, let's get into the creative side a little bit. Let's go back and just to give people an idea about the creative journey for yourself. Australia, London, come back. What's the difference between Australia and London? I'm not that silly that I don't understand that, you know what, bigger budgets, your access and your ability to do more is possible. Would that be correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first, you're right. It's budgets, right? And, you know, don't get me wrong, when you're there, the creatives still complain about the budget. Even though it's like double what I was working on, like in Australia, you know, they kind of just go, oh, it's not enough money. You know, it's like, whoa, dude, you don't know what a small budget is, mate. So, you know, it's still like that no matter where you are in the world, I guess. But yeah, it's access to just such a broad range of different people that are super talented. You know, you get to work with great directors, you know, that have done amazing work. Travel, you know, just even the sceneries that you've got there are just so vast and different, just an hour away. You know, so you want something that's in the Mediterranean. It's just there. It's not like you have to go across, you know, around the world just to get there. So yeah, it's the access to everything, and obviously the budgets are just incredible. Look, there's a massive focus on awards over there as well. It's something that I got to learn a lot more about when I was there, and kind of how to win them. I guess, you know, there's a technique, or, you know, I guess the best case study that you could possibly do. But even then, you know, they put a lot of money into their case studies as well.
And obviously it's just a numbers game, 20 odd million Australians compared to, you know, a couple 100 million in Europe. Absolutely. So obviously a lot different. Awards, always interesting. People always want to know about them or know what it was for. Looking on LinkedIn, I saw that you received a Silver Cans Lion from Duke. Now help me out here. Dukasol?
DocuSol.
Okay, DocuSol Pediatric Solution. So give us an idea about what that was about.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a really exciting brief and project to work on. It was animation based, and we got to write a song for it as well, and then record it with an indie artist, so a singer. So the whole process was just incredible, like going from start to finish. And it's one of those ones where I don't think it would win these days. I think the award shows have changed dramatically. It's way harder these days to win awards. You basically have to solve world hunger just to get a bronze, that is. It's changed so much. And so I'm not even sure if that would even come close to even winning anything these days. We're going on nearly 10 years now. So a lot's changed since then, and award shows have definitely changed. Look, it's still amazing, and we won heaps of awards for it, and it was great to experience. I didn't go to Cannes that year, but I went to a bunch of other shows and got up on stage and accepted those awards. And it is a good feeling when you get that award. These days, I'm not as focused as I probably was back in the day to win awards. Having said that, I think if you do aspire to do great work, awards will come. But yeah, to put so much focus on it, I think isn't healthy.
So DocuSalt, why was it so well received then? Why was it awarded so many?
Because it was a very integrated campaign. So it was animation.
A great case study. Would that be
it
fair
was.
to say?
We did put a good case study. That was an interesting case study as well, because there was a lot of drama involved, but I won't get into that. But yeah, it was putting a case study together because it was an integrated campaign that had a website. It was a song. It was animation. We had GIFs. Back then GIFs were all cool and new. You could download the GIFs. You could do wallpapers. We did the whole lot. So there was so many elements to it, and so it looked like a really big campaign when you put it all into a case study. And it was funny. It was just a funny, silly song about DocuSol. Just a bit of background. It's to solve baby constipation, right? And so a lot of those products are kind of sometimes marketed to mums as all care, blah blah, and we just kind of took the piss out of it. And I think it did quite well and resonated with a lot of people, especially mums.
So Pat, you depart London, come back. You come back and you join Magnum Opus.
Magnum Opus Partners, yeah.
Partners.
Yeah.
So
Which
you actually
going through.
And you get a stake in the business as well.
I did, yeah, a small stake. It was interesting. They were going through a new period, so they just brought on 2 partners, and I was the 4th, just to kind of change how they worked. And I was kind of, I guess, the last piece of the puzzle for them, where they just needed a creative leader, kind of bring in that spark, and also to their clients, and some of which were quite difficult at the time. So I had to kind of massage those relationships a little bit, and we did. And I think I contributed to turning that around quite dramatically.
What's the hardest part about running your own agency?
Like back then or now?
Back then.
Yeah, I think getting the right people is really, really difficult. You can have someone that's really, really good, but just not the right fit. So it's not that they're bad. It's just they just didn't fit into how we did things. And they've gone on to do great things in other places. So they obviously went bad. They just didn't fit into what we did. So people's a tough one. I think also running a small business, which I'm doing now, it's wearing a lot of hats. Back then, when I bought out the other partner, he was our only copywriter. So we were kind of like, all right, who's doing the copywriting? I'll do it. So I did it. That's kind of where I've shifted my skill set quite a bit and learned a lot about copywriting and how to craft a script properly and write it, so it's not too expensive, or, just in terms of thinking about production as well.
So what's your philosophy with hiring people then? Is it hire fast and fire even faster?
No, not at all. I actually don't really look at their resume in too much detail. I try and look at the person. I think a lot of skill sets can be learnt, but attitude and ethics can't. It's something innate in people. Work ethic is you've either got it or you don't, but a lot of skills can be learnt quite easily. Systems can be learnt, how we do things can be learnt, but an attitude is just your attitude, right? You could try and change it, but I doubt you'll ever change. It's just who they are. And there's nothing wrong with that, be you. But I definitely look at the person and get to know them. I think an easier way is just to sit down a couple of times and have a coffee with someone, or even a beer, and just get to know them and see if it's something that you can mesh with and have an honest conversation with. I think being honest with each other is really, really important when having a business. I don't like to be a dictator at all. I like to kind of collaborate. So if I don't get along with someone, it's going to be hard to do good work. And no, that's not to say that, sometimes you can have that kind of clash that makes something good, where you can have arguments, but that comes down to honesty and saying how you feel.
And so you get the right person on. How do you keep them motivated as a business owner?
Yeah, I guess depending on the department. I mean, I ran the creative department, so I'm always keen on getting them to experience life. Go see a movie, go see an art show, even just sit at a coffee shop and people watch and see how those people interact with each other. Finding insights, or interesting insights are looking at the small things that people do. And that's just half our job, right, is to kind of find those insights and connect those to, say, brands and products that we advertise. So, yeah, it's just like even also just take out the earphones, have a listen to conversations that people have. So I'm always encouraging them just to live life and enjoy experiencing how people work, because everyone's different, everyone's unique, and finding those little gems of insights that how people live.
And where do you see the industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yes, that's probably all networks merging as one and calling themselves formerly known as or something. No, other than that, I think there's a resurgence of independence coming through. There's some excellent independent agencies. There's a lot of startup social agencies that are kind of doing a similar model to what I'm doing. They've come in from nowhere. They don't know anything about the advertising industry, and they're just doing it themselves. And I've met with a few of them. There's Archie and Fox doing some great stuff. I think there's Tiny Disco doing some great stuff. And so they've come in, not looked at the industry of what it was, and just done it their own way. And it should be scaring agencies, I think, because I think they're the ones that are going to be doing it the right way. And yeah, that old model will, I think, slowly die, or at least maybe the networks might have some of those big clients still. There's always a place for those huge clients, but there's not many of them. So it's going to shrink even more in terms of networks. I saw Leo just merged. Now it's just Leo. So, there's VML now. So they're all just merging, right? And they're merging because the money's not there. So they have to change their model. So I think there's just going to be a lot of change, but hopefully a lot more independent agencies like us coming through. There already is Houghton and Co, Sunday Gravy, doing amazing work. So I'm rooting for them.
And what about speed of projects? Is it going to slow down any at all, Pat? A campaign from start to finish?
No, it's going to speed up, mate. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is that we used to have more time and more money, but now we've got less money and less time. So, I don't think anything's going to change in that sense. I think social media has changed that for clients. They want to put things out into the world more often. I'm not sure they should be, but it's just the model that's happened because of social media. So I think creating more for less is where we're at. Hopefully it changes a little bit. But again, it's about finding clients that appreciate what you do and paying you what you deserve. All clients are different and all clients have different budgets. So it's about being flexible to how you work with those clients. Now, I don't have a set way or set fee as such. I think an idea can be a good idea for a small budget and a good idea for a big budget. And it really depends on what, the budget is. So for instance, if it's a big budget, yes, we could probably do some 3D, and expands that thought process of what we can do. But if it's a small budget, you probably can't do 3D. So you have to kind of narrow that thinking, but in a more creative way of making it still interesting. We're in the business of attention. I don't see myself as a competitor with other agencies. My competitor is Joe on TikTok that's just clocked 10 million views. The currency is eyeballs, and so we need to be clever and stand out in the market these days. And you got to do it with less money. But having said that, Joe on TikTok's doing it with less money, with no money, and he's clocking, a huge amount of eyeballs. So there is ways to do it. You just have to be clever about it, and they are clever. These TikTokers are incredible. The work that they do, and they're writing it, they're acting in it, they're producing it. some of the edits I see on TikTok and Instagram are incredible, and these aren't professionals. These are just amateurs that are just creating this stuff. And I save them all because I'm like, oh man, how can we do that for a client? That is incredible. It would have taken them ages, So yeah, I mean, there's so much talent out there. And so you kind of have to look at the right places to find them, I think.
And it is all about eyeballs with anything these days.
Yeah.
And I guess,
evidently.
With the digital age, people have got better metrics,
Absolutely.
I'll assume, and you can tell it's all about eyeballs. What are you thinking about when you've got an idea, Pat, and you need to go, is it eyeballs first? And I'm trying to think about this from the traditional creative way was, hey, go away, come up with an idea, and, who knows whether an idea sticks or not. But now it's all about eyeballs, and you get to see the way that TikTok operates or social media. Are you thinking eyeballs? Does it play a part when you're trying to come up with an idea?
Yeah, I think it is. It's stop the scroll, right? So what can you do to stop that scroll? And look, I know advertising agencies put a massive amount of, I guess, pressure on this big idea. And yes, I've seen some amazing big ideas, but sometimes it doesn't have to be just an idea. It can be an execution that's done really, really well that gets your attention. I've seen it happen to me online all the time on TikTok. Maybe it's a certain type of edit or, the way that they've kind of introduced themselves, So there's different ways to kind of get that attention. It doesn't always have to be a big idea. Sometimes it is, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's also nothing wrong with not having a big idea in it. Sometimes it's just doing it in a really clever way that stops people and gets their attention, because that's all advertising is about, right? It's about just getting their attention in that first 3 seconds or 2 seconds, just to kind of get them to react, or even, the biggest media space that you should be owning is up here, not on a billboard, not on TV, but right there in their brain. So next time that they thinking to even buy a packet of chips, Harvest Snaps are the first ones they think of.
And you said before, it comes back to psychology, almost understanding how human beings think and interact, or what they aspire to or what they desire. You've written a book called Hook.
Yes.
Now, do you want to give me an idea about what the inspiration was behind it, but what the book's actually about?
Yeah, that was a funny one. I never thought I'd write a book, but it was lockdown, and I started writing and writing. We had nothing to do on the weekends. We had 2 kids at the time. We couldn't really leave the house. My wife would go to bed and I'll just start writing. I thought this is a good time. And after a while, I just said to my wife, I think I've got a book here. And it was Hook. And it was an idea that I'd had for a couple of years, but didn't think I'd have time to do anything about it. But the whole theme is H for human, O for offer, O for ownability, and K for keep, as in keep in your brain. And so it's a bit of an acronym, I guess, which is common in marketing. But it was that idea. So it was kind of using those 4 elements to get a process that I guess any new business owner or even marketers could use as a guide to do good work. Because you need human insights, you need an offer of some sort, you need ownability, and you need it to stay with someone and keep in their mind. So that was the thought process. The whole process of getting it published was bizarre as well. I sent it out to basically every man and its dog and didn't get anything. I gave up. And then about 6 months later, we were in Melbourne, still in lockdown, the 5th or 6th or whatever it was, and sent it out one more time to a bunch of small ones that I hadn't tried yet, and got one bite and had a meeting with them. And in that meeting, I walked out and went to my wife and I think I just got a book deal. It was just really weird. And it happened quickly. I wouldn't suggest to anybody launching a book during a pandemic, personally, again. I would hold out and wait until the world opens up again. But look, again, just it's another experience that I learned a lot from. I designed the book myself, wrote it. So again, wearing many hats. I had to do a lot of the marketing for it as well. It was a small publishing company. But again, having my book next to, Shoe Dog by the Nike owner was a pretty incredible feeling going into a bookstore. So I had no regrets, but I don't think I would ever write a book again. It was a lot of work when you're also trying to run an agency. It was intense, but yeah.
And newcomers, advice for them. So you've been a creative and you've owned your own business. You've owned two of them. You've written a book.
Yeah.
You've been a producer. Any advice?
Yeah. Look, I guess meet as many people as you possibly can. You never know where it can lead. So yeah, it's about like just getting as much experience as you possibly can and meeting as many people as you can. Reach out to all creative directors or producers on LinkedIn. Half the time, if you message 100, maybe 2 might write back. If they're nice enough, they might give you some time.
Hey, Pat, it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed chatting with you. Well, your head and heart from talking to you is in the right place, it seems. So good luck with everything. I hope it goes really well. I'm sure it will. Can't wait for the second book. Maybe the role of producer and creative, how, the pitfalls and the trappings. But it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you. Thanks, Pat. Well, that's it for today. I'll make the logo bigger. Thanks for hanging out with us. We shared some insights and stories that I hope you found useful. Whether you're just getting started or diving deeper into ad production, there's always more to explore. Keep listening, stay curious, and we'll be back soon with some more from the world of production. Take care until then.